What's up? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button, and if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into this beautifully honest reaction.
Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall on me. Say you're a good guy, make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it, I wanna see it. See how rewind, when we rewind, feel so.
What is going on, everyone? Listen, I really did not have any plans or intentions on doing sort of like a part two of my previous video when I just was sharing my perspective and asking the question just based on things that I was seeing, that it feels like Tisa Tells gets a whole lot more grace than Tasha K gets. And I feel like a lot of those reasons has to do with, colorism and looks and how people perceive one over the other. There are people that make comments about, oh, Tisa Tells, she's so beautiful. And, because she's lighter skin, has the long curly hair, all of that type of stuff. And then you have a beautiful woman like Tasha K, fully melanated, beautiful skin, beautiful, hair, whether she chooses to cut it short or let it grow, whether it's in a mohawk or a peacock or whatever she has chosen to do over the years, color it different colors, keep it black, whatever. She is comfortable in her skin. And that is an amazing thing to behold, because we have a lot of people who are extremely insecure these days. And I feel like it's something that people really need to see more of. And she stands firm in what she does in terms of the work on her platform. And also, she has, I feel, gotten an unfair shake because of the previous lawsuit that literally is in the past. Literally is in the past, okay? But people have made I've seen the comments. I've seen people make comments. She just celebrated her 19-year wedding anniversary, and I've seen people make horrible, nasty comments talking about her and her husband, lies that have been said about her due to rumors from other bloggers and vloggers over the years, even making insinuations about their children and things. It's just disgusting. And I don't think I've ever seen, well, I don't even think, I know I've never seen anything like that with regards to Tisa Tells. And I just have to put it out there because this is something that was shared with me, and it just really brought me back to what I just talked about. And I had no freaking idea. So when I saw this, I said, you know what? I got to do kind of a little part two. And we're just going to go ahead and get into this because I really feel that this is something that a lot of people may not know about, but it just needs to be put out there and exposed. Now, I hate that I have to do this, but I'm going to put the disclaimer, or just let it be known that the things that I'm sharing from the perspective of the law and what the jury decided. It may not be my personal feelings, but either way, I don't know Diddy. I don't know anybody in his family. I don't know any of the alleged or so-called victims or his former girlfriends or staff or anything like that. I want people to be treated well and to be treated right and all of the things, but ultimately it does not affect my personal life, and I'm not going to allow the things that go on, because this is a cruel, wicked, corrupt, dark world that we all live in, and we know that the justice system isn't fair. So it's not going to do me or the alleged victims any justice by me getting all worked up and emotional about the decision that the jury decided upon based upon the facts that were presented to them. Okay. So I wanted to just kind of preface that, because I'm going to be just sharing my thoughts, but it doesn't mean that, one, I think the jury was right or think the jury was wrong, because it's really not even fair to blame the jury for the decision that was brought based on the evidence that was presented, as well as the case that the prosecutors presented, because at the end of it all, it is up to the prosecution to bring on a case that would be undeniable for them, where the jury really would not have any choice but to find those who they are charging guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If there is doubt in those areas, the jury really is not supposed to convict. They say not guilty, but it doesn't mean innocent. There's a difference. I was a legal assistant for 12 years many years ago, and I said it once before, I think on one of the videos where I don't remember which one it was, but I stated many years ago, one of the last attorneys that I ever worked for, he did pro bono work. That means he was assigned to represent clients that did not have the means to pay for their own defense. And one of those clients was on trial for MURDER. He got the person off. He even said himself he felt like the guy was guilty, but he did his job and the prosecution really didn't do theirs. So the jury did not convict. It happens. So if you have someone who, even the attorney that was representing them, they got someone off because they did their job. They're just doing their job. Do I think it's fair or it's right for someone that did something like that to someone to be walking free? Absolutely not. But that is the justice system. So it's just one of those things that we really have to come to the realization of, and somewhat the acceptance of, because to get all worked up and emotional like she got in this video that was shared with me, I was like, this is one of the reasons why I talk about politics in the way that I do when I talk about it, because I feel that unfortunately a lot of people have made terrible decisions in their choices for either voting for who they voted for or not voting at all, based upon emotional things that were brought to their attention instead of the facts, instead of what's really going to affect their personal lives. And now you have a lot of people screaming and crying and yelling and hollering and being deported and detained and all of those different things that are happening right now, losing, just losing it, okay? Based off of emotions, okay? All right, guys. So, I mean, you can see on the screen here. And so let's just talk a little bit about the Tisa Tells coverage of the Diddy trial. I've watched multiple different people who were covering the trial, some who were there, live, and some who had people feeding them the information that was going on, and they were reporting it that way. And many viewers feel that her commentary was extremely biased, heavily slanted against Diddy, and without really diving into factual court documents or any real balanced perspectives. And a lot of times the titles of her videos and her headlines were honestly clickbait. It just really was crafted purely for shock value rather than for accuracy. But here's the thing, people still give her grace. A lot of them have praised her delivery and her, comedy, her comedic takes on things, while people will drag Tasha K for similar tactics. Like, seriously, despite Tasha often sourcing documents, having actual witnesses or, people that were there, all of those different things, and breaking exclusive receipts, some people will still come out and say, oh, Tasha is a liar. And it baffles me to no end. When Tasha K was covering the R. Kelly situation, she didn't necessarily cover the trial, but over the years, when she was covering things, interviewing people who were actually R. Kelly victims, and even talking to, for example, Azriel Clary's father on a multitude of occasions, things turned between the two of them, because when she started to see some things and some truths for what they really were when it came to the parents, and they didn't like it because they just felt like, oh, she should just be team victims or team Azriel or team Joycelyn Savage or whatever, even with the Savages. And she started seeing things. It was like she wasn't saying that R. Kelly was, you know, innocent or not guilty because of some things that she found out about these people that were not so clean either. But she wasn't willing to lay her her emotions out on the line for the sake of these people that she felt like she got to know or they got to know her to keep them happy or to make them happy. And that's one of the things that I will never forget, and I feel like she's able to separate her personal feelings from the alleged victims, and it keeps the commentary about the legal facts and the cultural impact clean rather than just purely on emotional rants. So, I want to share this video with you guys. It was shared with me. And so I'm going to share it with you. And I'll put the full video link in the description box. I'm just going to be sharing my reaction to some of it because I started listening to it and I was like, see, this is, this is kind of what I'm talking about. So let's just go ahead. This is a video that she did. It was around the time of the verdict. All right. So let's get into it. Okay. Did you hear her say, we're finding out how much evidence was concealed? Concealed. Who concealed evidence? Like, where are her facts to prove that evidence was concealed? And again, I'm not speaking as someone who was sitting out here saying a freako ain't a Rico and free Diddy. And I never said any of those things. And I shared some of my personal feelings about Diddy and Cassie and all of those things before. You can go back to some of those videos and see where I stood. But one of the reasons why I did not continue to talk about it so much is one, it's draining. It really is so spiritually and emotionally draining. I don't see how the people who were talking about this stuff all of the time could have continued to do it. You really have to be like literally, I feel prayed up, or you're just money hungry and you're doing it for the funds. Because I don't care what anybody says. A lot of the people that were doing the trial coverage consistently, they're doing it for the money. And I'm not sitting here judging them for that. If you had a clear goal, if that's what you wanted to do and you did that, cool, fine, and dandy. But it all comes with a price. There's a price to pay for that. And to sit and listen to all of the things that they were doing and all of the stuff that Cassie went through, and even the Jane Doe and the former employees and all the stuff that they went through. Clearly, Diddy absolutely has a lot of issues, a lot of them. But I could not discount that, yeah, a lot of the things that these people went through, they could have made a decision to say, you know what, I'm leaving, because it really doesn't sound like he held anyone hostage, even Cassie, for the most part. Because when you listen to a lot of the testimony that was given, not saying any of it was right, not saying it was cool for him to be domestically abusive to her, dragging her down the hall, all that stuff. But if you're going to just base the entire trial off of that one video, which the video was a lie, I'm not saying that it wasn't, but that was not what he was on trial for. And we have to remember that as well. He was not on trial for that. And I'm just I feel like to say that because some people feel like if you make mention of that, then that means that you're for Diddy and you're happy that he's freed. And I'm not saying any of those things. But the justice system isn't perfect. It definitely is not fair. And yeah, we can also say it was because of his money that helped him to be able to get the type of um, defense and representation that he was able to get, but also because of the type of money that he has, he was able to do the type of stuff that he was doing for so many years in the first place. So no, no guys who are out here saying free Diddy or a freako ain't a Rico or whatever would ever be in a position that Diddy was to be able to do the type of things that he was doing. So yeah, it is true that there were a lot of males who identified with his behaviors because it was like them living vicariously through Diddy, hoping at some point in time they would be able to do things like he was doing, or they wish it was them. Those things are true. But when it comes to this court case, it just cannot be, it can't be applied. I want to pause it for a moment because the thing about it is, while some of the things that she's saying I agree with, where it's like I felt kind of the same way. It was like, maybe don't say anything. Like, if you weren't saying anything when he was charged or when he was arrested or anything like that, and now that the verdict has been reached, maybe just stay quiet. Like, if you were silent before, maybe you should just stay silent, because it does give the appearance that you are okay with his behaviors. And I will say, for some of them, it may not be that they were okay with all of the behaviors that he was doing, but because a lot of those people are in that really dark industry, they're probably playing the game for the sake of, keeping their spots secure too. And I'm not saying that I agree with it or I am okay with it, but I'm also here to say, Tisa, child, baby girl, young lady, it really isn't worth it to get all worked up and so emotional over this situation that ultimately does not have anything to do with you. Hopefully, I'm just saying. Like I said, she is really, really emotionally worked up over this thing. Like, it personally affected her. And I'm not saying that you cannot, be an empath and really care for victims in a way where it gets you worked up and hot. And I've been there when it comes to, different things too, but to a certain extent. And this right here, and we'll get to the part where I'm talking about, it is sort of like a bit of a crash out. And I'm going to pause it for a moment there, because if you caught what she said, and I'm not saying this is exactly what she meant, but this is what I do over here. I'm A&R. I analyze and I react, okay? And just listening to what she said, her main audience are probably, for the most part, really emotionally, somewhat connected to this situation. I wouldn't say connected, affected, emotionally affected by this Diddy trial and the things that they heard, and the Cassie video, and her, her testimony of the things that she experienced and went through. There's a lot of trauma bonding there. And so her saying, this is who I care about, this is my community, like, this is what I feel. And this is no shade or knock to any of her followers in any way, shape, or form. Like I said to you guys before, I actually am subscribed to her channel. I just don't watch a whole lot of her content, and I don't personally connect in that way. And so when she says, this is who I care about, this is my community, like, a lot of the things that she's saying and doing, it is really to keep that connection with her followers, that she really got worked up over the what, year and a half or whatever leading up to Diddy being arrested, from Cassie's lawsuit to the settlement to all of the things that she was just alleging and insinuating as if they were actually factual and real. Okay, leading up to him being arrested, and then all of the videos after he was arrested, and and the time spent behind bars, and then leading up to the trial, and then the actual trial coverage and all of those things. She had all of these people hanging on, a hope and a prayer that this so-called demon was going to be banished to hell for all eternity, and hell being prison. And now that it didn't really happen that way, the way that she was pretty much kind of assuring them, reassuring them that it was going to happen, and it didn't happen that way, it could, for some of them, make her look some type of way, and she doesn't want to look that type of way to those people, like actually a liar or a clickbaiter. So she will say the jury was wrong, the jury didn't get it right, they're stupid, they're scum, they're idiots, there was actually evidence that was held back and all of those things. Where is that truth? Like, where can we find out what evidence was withheld? Like, she's the way she's reporting it and saying it, it sounds criminal to withhold evidence. There are things that both sides can request to be able to be presented, that the judge could either allow or deny, things like that to happen, but that is all up to, the court's discretion. But to say that those things, like you're saying it in a way where it was like a cover up, that's dangerous. And she possibly could be, I'm not saying that it would happen, or I even am wishing or hoping that it would, because that's not what I'm saying. But she really has to be careful about a lot of the things that she's saying, because she could be winding up in a defamation lawsuit if she's not careful. It was definitely weird, for sure. Armand, throwing baby oil all over himself and dancing and whatever, whether it was an inside joke with his subscribers and followers or not, it was extremely inappropriate. Do that shit in the privacy of your own home or in your Airbnb, on video, versus doing it in front of the courthouse. But also, some people feel the same way about her with some of the things that she was expressing to Nancy Grace that didn't really happen, saying that the court was on lockdown. It was chaos out there. They had to hold people, like lock people down and hold people back. And people were trying to like physically harm her or whatever. And from what I saw, yeah, there was a man that was yelling at her. And even though it was uncalled for, it was not a threat to her body. And she also had bodyguards. Not saying that, well, what do you care because you have bodyguards? It's just some of the things that she said, it just did not happen the way that she's saying. See, you're guessing. You don't know if that's what they really thought. And honestly, that Like, what did you want them to do? Like, be deliberating for 3.5 weeks? They were sitting there the entire time listening to everything. They would ask for things to review as they needed. But it is possible, it happens where, as the jury is being presented things throughout the trial, where they already pretty much know where they're going to have their vote land. And then you're just having conversations and maybe reviewing evidence with the entire jury during the deliberations period. So it does not require a 2, 3, 4 week deliberation. It just, because of the timing that it fell, what she's going to insinuate is, oh, they just wanted to be out in time for the holiday. They didn't want to have to come back to the court after the 4th of July. Did you hear her say the jury made a decision that was against the law? How does that even happen? If that even were true, the judge would have tossed out the jury's verdict. That is extremely rare for that to happen. It's possible that can happen, but it's extremely rare. At the least, it would have been a mistrial. But to say that they handed down an illegal against the law decision, that doesn't even make sense. But that's what she said. And a lot of people, they'll sit and just let her say these things and not check her on it because she's light and right. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I feel like that's how a lot of people look at her. That's the justice system as we know it for I don't know how long. When you have money, you have access to the representation that you need that would be able to present things or spin things in a way for the jury to have reasonable doubt. And that's really all it boils down to, guys. Reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt. If the prosecution had a better case and they were able to present things in a better way, because I'm telling you guys, from what I was listening to, it just was not a strong case. It wasn't. It wasn't. I wasn't jumping for joy about it, but it doesn't mean that I don't understand that. They just did not have a strong representation of what they were bringing forth against Diddy. So that's one of the reasons why defense did not even need to call any witnesses. They were just like, yeah, we rest our case because it just was not a strong case that the prosecution brought. All right. So for her to call the jury dumb and all of the other stuff that she's saying, it's just like, girl, you really are so worked up over this. It just is not making sense. Again, she's basing it on her opinions. I think they got starstruck. Luella. I believe she's talking about the comedian Lunel. I'm sorry, guys. I had to laugh because I was like, Luella, who? Okay. Okay, newsflash. It's pretty much always been that way. This is a patriarchal society. We already know how a lot of people view sexual assault, especially when it comes to women. A lot of times they will blame the victims, even when it's someone that was grabbed off of the street. It wasn't like a Cassie situation where they were in a relationship with this person at one point in time and they were benefiting from the good things by taking the bad things for all of those years. We already know things have been like this in this nation, and not just this nation, this world forever. there have been some, some advancements and some progress made over the years when it comes to women. And now we have a president in office that's pretty much trying to roll a lot of those things back. But this is nothing new. So it's not like breaking news of what she is saying. Do you know how many people on a smaller level who have been like really legitimate victims did not get justice? Like, look at back in the day, Charlemagne and Jessica. This was before he was famous, all right? And she's still been trying to make her voice heard and to have him held accountable, and not trying to throw anyone under the bus. But yeah, I mean, she's been trying to be heard about that for years. And her mom didn't even serve her well because her mom, what she said at the time, she just didn't want her to have to go through a trial and having to be witness to testify and to do all of the things that would be required. And she actually was a victim. And so that's just one example. This is nothing new. So what Tisa Tells saying is not breaking news. She's just the way she's expressing these things, it's really just to get her like main hardcore followers riled up to stay team Tisa, because what she was presenting over all of this time, it just did not come to the fruition of what she claimed it was going to be. All right, let's be clear. Yeah, you need to look out for yourself if you are a victim, and you need to have, a trail of evidence and receipts and all of those things, right? But don't get people to just reporting on people about stuff that really didn't happen, and then it becomes the boy or the girl who cry wolf situation. And then when something, or if something actually does happen, people don't believe you because there really is no like real truth to it or real evidence, or you got some people just trying to take somebody down because you feel like you want to get back on Mad Day. Okay. Now, I kind of get what she's saying. Someone's like, "Oh, well, I have kids with this person, whatever." Talking about the abuser, and they're talking about they have kids. I don't know if she was necessarily talking about Diddy when she was saying "f them kids." It didn't sound like from the context of what she said she was saying "f Diddy's kids." I didn't take that from what she was saying in that, but some may take that interpretation and say, well, you know what? Yeah, that's who exactly she was talking about. But I'm going to give her a little bit even a grace in that to say, I don't think that's what she meant just listening, to that. But yeah, the emotions that she has racked up in this situation, it honestly, it really is intense. So here's the things, guys. Like I can't say for certain that she really meant Diddy's kids when she was giving an example and said, I don't care, f them kids. But it was a statement that rubbed many people the wrong way. And some people feel like it just showed a complete lack of empathy for the children caught, in the situation that they really didn't have anything to do with. But it just raises a question even more, like, why does she get a pass for the clickbait titles, the biased coverage, and insensitive comments? And then, on the flip side of the coin, you have Tasha K, where she's relentlessly attacked for her delivery, her exclusives, and her reporting style. I just want to know, like, to share some of the comments, with you guys, because, like I said, this is what leads me to believe that she's doing, what she's doing the way she's doing it for a reason. Someone said, "Quiet follower here. Say it loud, say it proud. You, Tisa, are the new media." Being a survivor of sexual abuse and trauma from my military time, I applaud you for recognizing us victims and how we continue to be disrespected. Thank you for your integrity and calling out the jury and how they failed the victims. You ate, or I think they may are, you are not alone in your rage on this matter. I felt every single word, every single beat, every single emotion of that. Another one said, "What he's showing his children is okay, is despicable. Shame on those lawyers, too, especially the women." But here's the thing, guys, the lawyers, they're doing their job. It's like I said, it's a dirty job, but it's one that somebody has to do. And it's one that he hired his team to do. And they did it effectively for him. And not only that, the prosecution did not do a great job. And from what I've seen, the one of the prosecutors, Comey, she was fired. Okay. So, with those things being said, the emotions that she is delivering this in, it really is to connect with her audience, with her followers. Like she said, it wasn't about so much the, excuse me, yeah, it wasn't just about they got it wrong or whatever. It I feel like kind of was about she kind of got it wrong in the way that she was covering this up until the very end, up until after this verdict. And it didn't go the way that she was anticipating. And then, like I said, on the flip side of the coin, you had Tasha K, who had with the R. Kelly situation, she actually had actual victims who were interviewed on her platform, parents of victims, all of those different things like that. You never saw her getting so emotionally wrecked by that situation, even to the point when the freaking defendant sued her and that lawsuit was recently thrown out by the court. It was dismissed. And you still had people calling her a liar and saying that she needs to be held accountable. Held accountable for what? It's unreal. It really is insane the lengths and depths that some people will go to either attack one or defend the other. I just wanted to bring it to the front. So I want to know what you guys think about all of this, guys, because that's really what my goal was in even talking about this in the first place. And then this video was shared with me, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll go ahead and talk about it. So I really would like to know what you guys think about this situation. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I appreciate you being here. And let's just go ahead and get into it. And again, I don't come with any bias. I'm not here to attack Tisa, and I'm not here to praise Tasha K. I'm just talking about what I see, and it just is what it is. You either accept it or reject it. You either see it or you don't. I'm not here to fight or tussle with anyone. I am A&R. I'm analyzing and I'm reacting. Thanks for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.